Welcome to today's deep dive. So our mission today is unpacking a massive, just industry-shaking controversy happening right now in the beauty world.
Yeah, it's a huge one.
It really is. We are looking at a deeply sourced June 2026 article from the Dewyfile blog. And it's titled, Olive Young U.S. Review, Why Kbeauty Shoppers Are Furious 1 Month In.
Right, furious being the key word there.
Exactly. And if you aren't deep into skincare, Olive Young is essentially the undisputed heavyweight champion of Korean beauty retail.
They absolutely dominate the market.
They do. And they just launched their highly anticipated expansion into the United States.
Ah.
So we're going to look at the fallout of that.
Because the fallout has been pretty spectacular.
Oh, totally. Because to truly grasp what is happening here, I want you to imagine, if you will, your absolute favorite international brand.
Everyone has one.
Right. You know the one you have to jump through hoops to buy from. You willingly pay extra for shipping. You patiently wait weeks for the package to arrive.
But it's worth it.
Right. It's entirely worth it because you feel like you are in on this amazing exclusive secret. Now imagine you get the news that this brand is finally, officially opening up shop right in your country.
Real physical stores.
Real stores. A dedicated local website, the works. You should be absolutely thrilled, right? Like popping champagne, getting your wallet ready.
For sure. You'd be ecstatic.
But instead, you log online, and the entire fan base, the very people who built this brand's hype from the ground up, is absolutely furious.
Yeah, just complete outrage.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because this isn't just a story about face serums and moisturizers. Whether you care about skincare or not, this is it's a masterclass in brand loyalty.
And retail psychology.
Exactly, and how quickly a fiercely loyal community can turn on you if you mess with their ecosystem.
It serves as a perfect case study, really, to understand the sheer magnitude of this consumer outrage. We have to establish the baseline of what Olive Young meant to these buyers before June 2026.
Which was a lot.
A tremendous amount. For years, Olive Young operated what they called their global mall. And this website functioned as the unofficial front door to Kbeauty for shoppers everywhere outside of South Korea.
So basically the whole world.
Basically, yeah. We are talking about customers in Vietnam, India, the US. Everyone was funneled through this single, unified digital portal.
Which means that global mall wasn't just a store. It was the great equalizer of international skincare shopping.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it didn't matter if you were sitting in Ohio or Mumbai, you had the exact same access to the same products.
And that equal access was beloved for two incredibly specific reasons, which were curation and fair pricing.
Right.
The global mall offered one universal membership system and one set of prices that felt, refreshingly close to what people were actually paying on the ground in Seoul.
Which is super rare for imported beauty products.
Extremely rare. People felt they were getting a fair deal without being penalized simply for living outside of Korea. So the fundamental expectation for a U.S.-specific launch was that this already great experience would just become faster.
With shorter shipping times and more convenience, right?
Exactly.
Like a homecoming. That's what the vibe was supposed to be. But the reality of this online launch felt a lot less like a homecoming and, honestly, a lot more like an eviction notice for longtime fans.
It really did.
Because the moment the new U.S.-exclusive online mall launched, that welcoming global front door got abruptly locked for U.S. shoppers.
Just slammed shut.
Slammed shut. Everyone who had spent years building up their old accounts got quietly pushed through a side entrance into a completely different digital building. And this new building had entirely different rules.
And, most critically, completely different math.
Yes, the math.
This forced digital migration was really the first major misstep. They didn't just add a localized option for those who wanted faster shipping. They forced a hard transition.
They made everyone switch.
Right. And the loyalty built on the global mall was incredibly portable. It spread organically across TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit.
Word of mouth was huge for them.
Massive. But it was also fragile because it was predicated on a very specific social contract regarding value.
And I want to focus on how quickly that social contract shattered. Because the outrage didn't start with a massive coordinated marketing boycott or anything. It started with a single screenshot.
That's all it takes now.
That is all it takes. In these highly engaged digital beauty communities, all you need is one person with 2 browser tabs open to start a fire. Someone went onto the new US site and looked up the ANOA-PDRN hyaluronic acid capsule serum.
Oh, right. The famous salmon DNA serum.
Yes. And before we go any further, I am not a cosmetic chemist, so let's pause for a second. What on earth is a PDRN hyaluronic acid capsule?
That is a great question. So PDRN actually stands for polydeoxyribonucleotide.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, a mouthful, which is derived from salmon DNA.
Salmon DNA, just making sure I heard that right.
You did. It is a massive, cutting-edge trend in Korean skincare used for rapid skin repair and cellular turnover.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's highly technical, incredibly specific, and it is exactly the kind of advanced formulation that Olive Young's diehard enthusiast fan base actively hunts for.
Okay, salmon DNA. That definitely proves we are dealing with a highly educated consumer base here. So a user looks up this highly technical salmon DNA serum on the new US site and compares it against what that exact same product used to cost on the old global mall.
And the math was jarring, to say the least.
It was. On the old global site, you could get that Anno-PDRN serum bundled together with a matching cream of the same size.
A whole bundle.
A whole bundle, and that entire bundle was cheaper than what the US site was now charging for the serum all by itself.
It's a staggering discrepancy when you see the numbers laid out side by side like that. It immediately breaks the trust the consumer has in the brand's pricing architecture.
It really does. It's like finding out your favorite local coffee shop, remodeled, changed the locks, and then suddenly started charging you double for the exact same latte.
Or the indie band analogy. They sign to a major label, only play corporate jingles, and the backstage pass costs double.
Exactly. It just feels like a betrayal. But let me play devil's advocate here for a second if I want to push back on this consumer outrage just a bit.
Sure.
Isn't this just the reality of corporate inflation? I mean, everything is getting more expensive in 2026.
That's true. Costs are up across the board.
Right. And setting up a U.S. operation, renting warehouses in California, hiring local staff, dealing with domestic shipping, that all costs a fortune. Is it really fair for consumers to expect direct from Seoul pricing when the underlying infrastructure has completely changed?
It's a completely logical question to ask, but, well, the consumers actually have the high ground on this one.
Really? How so?
Because it's not just standard operational inflation. And that becomes glaringly obvious when you look at how the taxes are applied.
Okay, lay it on me.
So the old global site's international checkout didn't always apply U.S. sales tax in the same standardized, aggressive way. With the new U.S. site, you have a significantly higher base price for the product itself, right? And then you are stacking full U.S. sales tax on top of that already inflated base.
Ah, so they are getting hit twice.
Precisely. And to answer your point about the costs of a U.S. operation, this really comes down to customer acquisition cost, or CAC, versus lifetime value, or LTV.
Okay, the marketing math.
Exactly. The U.S. retail market is incredibly expensive to operate in. Digital ads, logistics, and retail space cost astronomically more here than in many other markets.
Which makes sense.
It does. But to balance those new, massive operational costs on their corporate spreadsheet, Olive Young needed to extract significantly more revenue, a higher lifetime value, from the exact same users.
So they just hiked the prices.
They hike the prices.
Yeah.
When you run the actual numbers, the gap stops looking like a minor adjustment for local shipping. It looks like a massive, deliberate margin expansion wearing a localization costume.
A localization costume. I love that phrasing.
It fits perfectly.
It really does. They are using the guise of bringing the store to your backyard as a shield to charge you more.
Yes, exactly.
And clearly, the shoppers saw right through that localization costume because that screenshot spread like absolute wildfire. It's instantly verifiable. Anyone can open 2 tabs and see they're getting a worse deal.
And once that trust is gone, it's hard to get back.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But, if your prices shoot up, your product offering has to be utterly flawless to justify it. Which brings us to the physical stores.
Right, the brick-and-mortar locations.
Stepping into a real physical Olive Young in Pasadena, California, was supposed to be a dream for these fans.
You would certainly think so, but stepping inside actually revealed a much deeper structural issue with the brand's identity in the U.S. market.
Because it wasn't what they expected.
Not at all.
Oh.
The pricing discrepancy was the spark, but the curation on the physical shelves was what really made people question the brand's long-term direction.
Because it all comes back to that core identity of being a curator. We touched on this earlier, but Olive Young built its entire global reputation on being the ultimate tastemaker.
They are the trendsetters.
They're like the cool older sister of skincare. They are the ones who find the next great, obscure, niche Korean brand long before it ever blows up on Western social media. You go to Olive Young specifically to discover what's next.
Right, the primary promise of the brand is discovery. You are paying for their expertise in sorting through thousands of formulations to find the best ones.
So put yourself in the shoes of a diehard fan. You make the pilgrimage to Pasadena. You fight LA traffic, which is a nightmare on its
A
own.
big brutal.
Right. You walk into this store expecting a wall of those famously curated, hard-to-find Korean exclusives. But instead you look at the shelves, and a massive chunk of the retail space is taken up by mainstream brands like COSRX or Medicube.
Brands that are already everywhere.
Exactly. Brands that you can already buy at your local Ulta, Sephora, or even a well-stocked pharmacy.
What's fascinating here is the underlying supply chain logic that forces this kind of retail dilution.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Opening massive flagship physical stores in the U.S. requires an enormous amount of guaranteed inventory. Small, niche, indie Kbeauty brands simply do not have the manufacturing scale to fill a sprawling Pasadena storefront overnight.
They literally just can't make enough serum.
Exactly. So to ensure the shelves weren't empty on opening day, Olive Young had to lean heavily on brands that already possessed robust, established U.S. distribution networks.
Which completely defeats the purpose of going.
It really does.
I mean, if a significant portion of what is sitting on a shelf in a specialty Kbeauty store is merchandise I can buy at the mall 5 minutes from my house, the trip itself starts to feel entirely pointless. It totally strips away the treasure hunt appeal.
It does. In the retail world, your identity is only as strong as your differentiation.
Wow, yeah.
By stocking the Pasadena stores with brands already deeply saturated in the U.S. market, Olive Young inadvertently treated their most educated consumers like beginners.
Which is a huge insult to them.
It is. The American consumer who knows about Olive Young isn't a casual skincare buyer. They are an enthusiast searching for salmon DNA serums, like we said.
Right, they want the weird cutting-edge stuff.
Exactly. The brand profoundly underestimated the sophistication of their own fan base.
So let's look at where we are. If your product curation is diluted and your prices are suddenly higher, the only thing keeping your business afloat is customer loyalty.
Which was already taking a hit.
Right. You have to rely on the people who have already spent hundreds or thousands of dollars with you. But instead of rewarding that loyalty, Olive Young actually managed to weaponize it against their own users.
This is where the operational mechanics of the launch shifted the community sentiment from disappointed to actively furious. They systematically made it harder for their most loyal customers to maintain their status.
They completely shifted the goalposts overnight.
They really did.
Let's break down this loyalty program change, because this is wild. On the old global mall, if you wanted to maintain top-tier VIP status, you had to spend $300 in a rolling 6-month window.
Right. And for a skincare enthusiast buying serums and sunscreens, that is very achievable.
Totally achievable.
It's a carefully calibrated threshold.
Yeah.
It encourages consistent purchasing behavior without feeling completely out of reach for a normal consumer.
But when they forced everyone over to the new US site, that threshold didn't just inch up to account for inflation. It doubled.
Overnight.
Overnight. Suddenly, you needed to spend a staggering $600 in that exact same time frame just to keep the perks you already have.
It's so frustrating.
It's like frequent flyer miles. If an airline suddenly tells you that your hard-earned platinum status doesn't count on domestic flights anymore unless you fill out 3 new forms and fly twice as often, you're not going to fly more.
No, of course.
You're going to switch airlines out of pure spite.
The airline analogy is perfect because it highlights the psychological friction. And Olive Young introduced massive friction.
It wasn't just the money, right?
No, it wasn't just the doubled spending requirement. It was the fact that your points and tier status from the global site didn't automatically migrate to your new U.S. account.
You had to just through hoops.
Yes. Customers were required to explicitly opt in to transfer them over, which created a massive administrative bottleneck and huge delays.
What a mess.
In user experience design, friction is the absolute enemy of retention. For people who had spent real money building up those perks, watching their status get locked behind corporate red tape felt incredibly disrespectful.
And the backlash was immediate and measurable.
Yeah.
We aren't just talking about a few people complaining in an isolated Reddit thread.
No, this is widespread.
Within a single month, the brand new US app tanked to a 2.8 out of 5-star rating.
That is a catastrophic metric for a major brand launch.
It really is. People were literally circulating online petitions to bring back the global mall. The noise got so deafening that Olive Young actually had to issue a formal public response.
Yes, about 10 days post-launch, they released a statement attempting damage control. They addressed the pricing models, the membership changes, and the consent required for the point transfers.
They basically said, look, the old $300 threshold was calibrated for a massive global audience across multiple countries with vastly different costs of living. Now that we are focusing on the U.S. market, we have to adjust to local economic conditions.
Which, if we connect this to the bigger picture, is a textbook corporate communications misfire.
Oh, completely.
From a purely macroeconomic standpoint, an executive sitting in a Seoul headquarters might look at U.S. disposable income data and logically justify doubling the threshold.
Sure, the math on the spreadsheet works.
Right. But consumer loyalty is inherently emotional, not just transactional. Attempting to explain the supply chain logistics or the macroeconomic reasons behind a threshold increase doesn't soothe the sting of losing your VIP status.
It really doesn't.
The corporate logic might be perfectly sound on a spreadsheet, but it is utterly tone-deaf to the reality of the consumer's lived experience.
It's like they were saying, well, you guys are Americans, the data says you have more money, so we're going to charge you more to be in our club.
That's exactly how it sounded to the buyers.
Of course that is going to make people furious. But despite all of this online rage, despite the app ratings and the petition, the physical stores themselves aren't actually failing.
No, they aren't empty. And this brings us to a really crucial, fascinating shift in modern consumer behavior.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because when you actually look at the data and talk to the people who have walked into these Pasadena stores, even the ones who are livid about the website and the VIP tiers, they kind of love the physical space.
The stores are actually quite nice.
They are. The Dewyfile article notes that the reviews of the actual brick-and-mortar stores are surprisingly positive. People say the layout is incredibly clean, it's beautifully organized, and it's genuinely pleasant to browse.
They nailed the aesthetic.
They did. Plus, they have these really fun extras near the checkout, like art box stationery and Korean snacks. And most importantly, the physical store offers something the digital global mall never could, which is a sensory experience.
That is huge for skincare.
Exactly. You can actually test the textures of these formulations. You can check how a foundation shade oxidizes on your actual skin before you commit to buying it.
That tactile sensory experience is invaluable, especially in the beauty industry. Korean skincare is famous for its unique textures, snail mucin, lightweight gel creams, encapsulated serums.
You want to feel it first.
You want to know how it absorbs, how it layers, how it smells. So the physical footprint has real, undeniable utility.
Right.
But the way consumers are choosing to utilize that utility is where the retail landscape is fundamentally shifting. They aren't going in to complete the transaction. They are treating all of young US as a specialty showroom.
Ah, the showrooming phenomenon in full effect.
Precisely. The modern consumer is incredibly savvy. They will happily drive to Pasadena, enjoy the beautiful air conditioning, test all the Anua and CO SRX products on the back of their hand, find their perfect shade match.
And then walk right out the front door empty-handed.
Exactly. They go home, pull out their laptop, and order those exact same products significantly cheaper from rival global Kbeauty retailers.
Retailers like Stylovana. The article explicitly points out that companies like Stylovana have basically swooped in and kept the old global model alive.
They really capitalized on the mistake.
They did. They didn't have to build expensive U.S. retail stores, so they don't have that massive local overhead. They ship direct from Asia, which means they kept the broad catalog of niche Korean exclusives.
And crucially, they didn't reset the spending thresholds for their loyal customers.
Right.
It exposes a massive strategic vulnerability for Olive Young. By raising prices to cover their physical footprint, they have effectively built a beautiful, highly expensive, unprofitable testing laboratory for their digital competitors.
Which is just wild to think about. So what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now? Whether you are buying Kbeauty serums, running shoes, or new electronics, there is a massive lesson here on how to navigate the modern retail world.
There really is.
First of all, you have to stop assuming that local automatically means better or cheaper. That localization costume is very real, and companies will use the convenience of a local warehouse to drastically expand their profit margins.
You can't just trust the narrative.
No, you have to start comparing prices product by product before you click checkout.
It absolutely requires a more active, vigilant form of consumerism. You can no longer rely on a brand's historical reputation for fair pricing once their operational model or physical footprint changes.
You really can't. And recalibrate your math. If a brand arbitrarily changes the rules of their VIP program, like jumping from $300 to $600, you have to step back.
Take a breath.
Yeah, step back and honestly ask yourself if those status perks actually matter to you anymore, or if you're just chasing a tier out of sheer habit.
That sunk cost fallacy is powerful.
It is. And most importantly, do not feel a shred of guilt about showrooming.
None at all.
Using a physical store to physically test a product and then buying it online from a competitor who respects your wallet better isn't disloyalty. It is just being a smart, rational shopper in 2026.
It is a protective measure against corporate overreach. What we are seeing is consumers actively learning to decouple their emotional attachment to a brand's curation from the actual point of purchase.
Which makes sense. Because to sum this all up, the demand for Kbeauty in the US has literally never been higher.
It's booming.
Olive Young isn't facing backlash because people don't want Korean skincare. They're facing backlash because this is a textbook cautionary tale of aggressive localization.
Yes, moving too fast.
Right. When a company moves too fast, focuses entirely on their own supply chain spreadsheets, and completely ignores the deep emotional and financial attachment of their existing customer base, it backfires spectacularly.
The next few months are going to be critical to watch, and it raises an important question for the retail industry at large.
Yeah, what are they going to do next?
Exactly. Will Olive Young swallow their corporate pride, walk back these VIP thresholds, and adjust their pricing to actually compete with the global digital retailers that are currently undercutting them?
Or will they stubbornly hold their ground?
Right, betting that the sheer convenience of in-person shopping and instant gratification will eventually wear down the outrage.
It is the ultimate game of retail chicken.
It really is.
And it leads us to something really fascinating to think about as we wrap up today's deep dive. We talk about how showrooming testing, in-store, and buying cheaper online is just being a smart shopper today.
Right.
But think about how that fundamentally shifts the definition of consumer loyalty. The loyalty hasn't disappeared, it has just evolved.
It's changed targets.
Consumers are no longer loyal to the platform or the retailer. They're fiercely loyal only to the product itself.
That's a great point.
So if physical stores just become unprofitable testing labs for cheaper digital rivals and loyalty to the retailer completely evaporates, how much longer can the traditional brick-and-mortar retail model actually survive before the whole system has to be reinvented?
It's a huge question for the future of commerce.
It is something to keep in mind the next time you test a serum at the mall and immediately pull out your phone to check the price online. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the world around you, keep reading the fine print, and we will catch you next time.